everyone, my name is Suds.
And I'm Sabrina.
Welcome to Zero Calorie Marketing. Today we're joined by Jake and Daniel. Jake is a brand and marketing strategy specialist.
And Daniel is the director and co-founder of JDM Social.
So these two guys had never met each other until they came to be interviewed by us on our podcast.
We talked a lot about social media, freelancing, organizing time, and self-management. We also found out that despite being in different points in their career, they had a ton of similarities and a ton of experiences.
We had a lot of fun talking to them.
And getting to know them. We also found out that Jake owns a ton of caps.
Hey everyone, this is Suds.
This is Sabrina. We're with
Jake Medina
Daniel Najafi.
And this is Zero Calorie Marketing.
Oh my god!
I'm Daniel, I'm 22 years old. I like to say that I wake up every day with the purpose to empower others to do what inspires them so they can feel fulfilled and do anything that will clear them from concerns. Now, the way I do that is by running a marketing agency that delivers social media and marketing solutions for B2B and B2C. Mostly we focus on SMEs.
Cool.
On the side, just really quickly, I study as well and I have a part-time job.
Okay.
Be able to pay the bills.
What about yourself, Jake?
So I'm Jake Medina. I am currently a freelance marketing consultant. I've worked in marketing in London for the last 10 years almost. And with industry-wise, I'm very much kind of an FMCG, food and beverage background with a little bit of beauty thrown in there. I'm a Welshman living in London, in East London. And I'm kind of a self-confessed marketing generalist.
Okay.
So I don't think it's sometimes seen as a dirty word. But that's me.
Great.
How did you get into, why digital marketing? Why, how did you get into that?
Well, I wasn't born a marketer. I'm not the classic, entrepreneur selling while he was 6 years old and blah, blah, blah. I sort of fell into it because I love to hear stories and tell stories. And one of my favorite authors or marketers is Seth Godin. And he has this book saying all marketers lie. And then he has this line, he says, tell stories. So I kind of think of it as based on my idea of liking to tell stories and hear stories. That's how I fell into it. Very practically, I had an e-commerce store. While I was doing that, I was documenting everything online. And then one day, a guy from an organization called Nordic Startup Awards, he reached out to me and said, hey, I've seen your Instagram. Would love for you to take over our Instagram. And basically just by that, as you said, luck, I guess. I just fell up on that and I understood the industry step by step. And the rest is history, I guess.
That's great.
What about you, Jake? You say you're lucky.
Yeah.
Is that like a professional kind of lucky? How did you get into the world of digital marketing?
Yeah, so basically I studied entrepreneurship and marketing, the UK's first entrepreneurship degree, back in 2009, and I actually ended up like a lot of future marketeers having to kind of work in sales at first. I had a chance to work at Vita Coco, which at the time was the fastest growing drinks brand in Europe, in a sales role, and I guess the luck came into it, I guess, where there was a chance opening for a marketeer, and it was kind of a very entrepreneurial brand that was open to letting less experienced people really, find themselves there. And so that helped me transition over from sales into a brand marketing role, and it's kind of, my career's taken off from there, I guess.
Wow. So Daniel, you do a lot of things. How do you balance between all the different things that you do, and also keep an online presence?
Well, one of the things is by having a guy like Joseph here who's filming me.
So, for the record for the benefit of the audience, there's Joseph here who's filming Daniel doing some behind the scenes footage.
Exactly.
We love a good behind the
Yeah, we'll include the link on the bio on the bottom so you can see the video.
That would be cool. I mean, in general, it's something I've always done myself through my phone. Always like filmed myself while I was doing something. It had a look. It has and still does look awkward sometimes in situations, but it's just nice to be able to look back and see how you've grown. But how I manage it is just by waking up early enough and then having my priorities in order. I don't go out as much and stuff like that, but I'm not at the boring side either. You know,
Sure.
it's not that I
There's a good
never do.
balance.
Yeah, I try to, but some days you're more productive than others. I think. A bit as a freelancer, you must know more than anyone.
Yeah, exactly. You have to really call yourself into check and make sure that you're organizing your time and you know really managing yourself a lot of the time to ensure that you're getting everything done.
I mean, I don't know for you, but for me, I always make either weekly or daily to-do list the night before, and I like to tick things off so I know that I've been productive. Otherwise, you can do a million things and you don't know what you actually done during that day.
Just for me, do you keep this in a paper format or do you put it on digitally?
Yeah, paper or digital.
On the phone?
It's on the phone, 100%.
Because for me, I have a list. I wish it was a daily list. It's just a weekly list.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a monthly list.
It's a list.
It's a list. And I like to, I just put it into paper. And for me, I think I get some satisfaction out of literally crossing something off with a pen.
Yeah.
And, it gives me that kind of rush. Although, like, having some list is better than having no list.
Yeah.
And I just find it helps me get things done. Do you have how do you make sure your priorities are in order?
So I've gone the real geeky route, and I will make sure I use software for it.
Yeah.
So
It's
depending.
Usman 2.0.
Yeah.
So in the most basic format, I find a Trello really helpful.
Yeah, Trello.
That's our base friend.
Exactly. So I've got some clients where I'll, my tasks for them stay on their Asana board, a great tool for project management. But generally Trello, because I feel I used to email myself my to-do list for tomorrow, kind of from bed the night before to help myself sleep. But I've had to move to the point where when I leave a desk for the day, I am then done. That's the way I can survive as a freelancer. It's taken me a while to work out, but so I have to leave it there.
We're digital marketers. How do you I find myself, I don't know how you guys are, also Sabrina, we're looking on Instagram almost every 2 minutes for professional reasons, but you just sort of slightly go on your own.
Social media in general, I'd say,
And we're behind the desk and we're usually behind the computer screen. How do you guys manage your time? Because you both use social media professionally. Do you have a certain time for yourself or how do you divide the time between the two?
Yeah, I think for me, I probably spend less time on social media than you do, I imagine, if you've got your own content agency. So my answer will probably be quicker. Again, it fits within the structure of my day. I very much tend to not look at, I don't check my social media until I get to work, wherever work is that day. It's always get up, exercise first, feed yourself, and then that is part of work for me. And I've actually found the more that I've used it for brands, the less I use it personally. So I think I probably uploaded 4 or 5 pictures to my own Instagram over the last 6 months, but I use it and I find I follow lots more influencers and stuff like that because it's relevant for work. But I kind of it's become more of a tool for work and less personal. I guess
I get that 100%. I mean, for me, I kind of merge it into one. It's my everyday life, but it's also work related. I kind of feel like I can't tell a client something if I haven't tried it myself. So I test everything. If there's a new app, I try it myself. Especially because we have an influencer side of aspects, so we also work with influencers, and content creation is something that I like within the agency. So one of the software we use, for instance, in terms of before, is ClickUps to task, and my tasks are always sort of based on the things that I am expert in, or let's say with quotation. But yeah, other than that, it's just on Instagram usually. LinkedIn, I'm starting to use much more and more, which I find super fascinating, and I'm actually thinking of starting to share vlogs and videos on LinkedIn instead of only the classic YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, so, I mean, for us, I spend almost all my time on LinkedIn as a default choice of social media, but I know because Sabrina actually posts content on Instagram and YouTube. How do you manage the time between, for yourself?
You know what? To be honest, when you're at work, it's kind of like that's what you're doing. You're at work, and I think personal sort of media comes second. But I think it's been good. We've been posting on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on literally any social media platform there is, and I think because we have our analytics set up, getting that click back, getting that it's really motivational, and you kind of just keep pushing. And we've been doing great. We started our YouTube videos, and they're skyrocketing. So.
I would say, especially like for me within working with like food and drink brands, that we, as brands tend to, brands do understand now they need to be like social first. They don't always know what that means. But you'll get brands that will invest a lot in content, and they'll have an initial strategy for kind of implementing that across channels. What I then find is that brands, it's often a second thought who's going to be managing that, because it's such a big task, like really community management. It's all encompassing. You've got like customer service within there, but also you're trying to drive sales, you're trying to build awareness, engagement, often education through it. It's
it's a team effort.
It really is, and I think it's really important to have the right tools and team in place from day one that are happy to manage that.
And you know what, with that being said, I think social media and just marketing in general online is such a rapid industry. Everything, there's always something new, something's changing. So how would you say you keep up with the changes in the industry, especially with the new apps, new sort of websites? Like, how are you staying on top of all that?
For me, it's just people. I mean, it's obviously, because even if you're business to business or you're business B2C, it's still people you deal with. So how people are interacting or how people consume stuff is, if you can just somehow analyze that, I'm sure you'll find out also by testing the new platforms that comes out. You'll be able to you will never be able to guess 100% this is going to be it.
Sure.
But you can see, and that's what I meant before when I said, when I say that history repeats itself. So,
For me, ensuring that we stay on top of it, there's a couple of ways we do it. Firstly, as a consultant, I think it's really important to have a good network of people with more niche expertise, or not even niche necessarily, but more focused in their approach. So, I work with a couple of like content creators and social media specialists who, are able to stay on that, like non-stop, more day to day, because for me in my role, or, having an understanding and being able to strategize on everything is fine, but to get really deep into new platforms and stuff, I think working with partners and especially with brands, if brands want to grow fast, my advice is always to actually ensure that you're open and receptive to outsourcing and bringing experts into the business. And I think that's really important for any social and content creation, and that helps brands and individuals. We're learning from each other, so that's one way. And also, like you mentioned LinkedIn, I think it's really important that the content that you're being fed is helping you learn. So a lot of I don't follow many different agencies and brands and experts on LinkedIn, but the ones I do are often feeding me content on social and on different platforms, because that's something that I need to constantly be learning about, and I'm absolutely not adverse as an individual, although being a marketing expert myself, to still training. Like I went on a training course the other day about Generation Z, and went on a masterclass, and it was by an amazing agency, and learned about kind of 5 or 6 new platforms that I admittedly hadn't heard of. And then I would kind of felt stupid, and I went to my peers, and they were like, "Dude, we've all heard of TikTok, but these 5."
We were just having that conversation.
So I think we need to constantly learn from each other.
Cool. Excuse me.
So Jake, sorry, this is one sort of targeted at you. So obviously, speaking of LinkedIn, we went and we checked out your socials, and you had commented about your brand plan and how you redefine that for Edgard Cooper. You had done a bit of work there. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how you sort of took that approach?
Yeah, totally. So Edgard & Cooper is a amazing premium pet food brand that I work with. Their goal is to have as little as possible environmental impact. So they use 100% biodegradable packaging. They give 10% back to dog charities in less fortunate areas. And it's a really quality product. So it's a brilliant product, perfectly positioned for the UK. But it's a Belgian brand that has kind of started in a way that's unusual for brands in the UK, because it's very much usually a brand is, conceived and developed within the UK market and then taken abroad. So for me, the task was to localize their plan to activate that in the UK. And the one kind of, I think, one key area in that brand plan that actually worked really well was the fact that, in the UK, we do have a very high density of influencers. I know it's such like a gimmicky keyword, it feels now use influencers, and I'm not saying that it just works to have, these big macro influencers talking about brands.
Sure.
But one clear thing for us to build brand awareness quickly and amplify our own efforts was to use London, as the hub where there are a lot of influential people. So kind of one exercise we did in the early days last year was to extend invitations for an event we were running to a lot of both doggy influencers and just influencers, just people, to start attending and kind of introduce the brand with, we weren't asking for anything, we weren't giving anything for it, we were just saying, we're here, we're present, and actually created a really engaging, low-cost event for them, where there was a huge benefit for the influencers. And what we found from that event that was really successful, we basically did a doggy brunch, where you could come to brunch. We did it in a WeWork. We did it in the office, free of charge space, guys, for anyone working in a WeWork. And we had, we basically invited a load of influencers, and whilst their dogs were getting groomed by professional dog groomers in WeWork, we had a nail artist and someone to trim beards that had done nails for the front cover of Vogue. So it was like very appealing. I think we got the target was just to get 10 solid influencers there to really amplify on social, and we got 27. They spent an average dwell time of an hour and a half, and we were expecting 20 minutes. The appointments were only 20 minutes, and that was that had a potential reach of about 15 million by the end of the day. So it was a great way to kind of start with a bang with our influencers. So that was one way we really localized and used the benefit of being in London.
One just follow-up question for you, Jake, is like when you went to sort of localize the plan for the UK, what were your biggest struggles when it came to selling it to the Belgians in a way, because they may have a different culture or they may have a different approach to things? What was the biggest obstacle and what was the biggest learning that you got out of it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it is, and like as you just identified, it's really tricky for any head office to kind of to give away maybe a bit of control to other parts, to other countries, to other teams. So it is often a difficult sell, and certainly the way that we split the budget in the UK is definitely different to how it's definitely a higher digital spend than abroad. And there were, we are a very well established direct to consumer market. We do a lot of our shopping online. But I think that, you have to be able to evidence everything. So one of the things, it's all well and good having ideas, but when it comes into selling that to your stakeholders, I always make sure every idea that I present is also backed up with rationale. Even if that idea is conceived as a gut instinct, and I think, oh, that's a no-brainer, or that's obvious, or, I will then go away and find the credentials for that idea. And I think that's always, I work with so many different stakeholders as a consultant, and that's, I always have that page of rationale, and often an example from another brand, that's in a different category that has already done it pretty well.
I could imagine that would be powerful. Did you use macro or micro influencers?
I always try and use a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, for that event there was no budget to pay anybody, so it was very much like a gifted event. And yeah, we had a couple of bigger ones. But it's always like where's the difference? But you know, there's micro, there's macro, and then there's always a different you know, number for those people in between. I'm like,
there's even the smaller ones as well.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, micro influencers as an aside is a real, you know, I'm often more interested in working with that side of things.
Nice. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Well
Daniel,
done.
let's pose some questions to you.
Yeah.
So first of all, where do you get your inspiration from, and how has social media as a platform helped you?
As an individual, as a sort of an agency.
Both.
Both. Well, inspiration, everything. It can be, you know, my parents, my own story and everything.
For sure.
But like professionally, if I have to name drop them, it's Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek is my absolute favorite, especially within branding, because I love branding. And I was listening to Jake, you know, it's all about the why, and everybody heard about the golden circle, and everything I do on a project with a client is based around that. A client can talk to me for 20 minutes, I'm going to ask him the same question, is why? And it's based on the philosophy of, if you know why you do what you do, the rest's going to find its place. Now, that's a whole other conversation, and I could talk for hours, and I love that. And I'm sure me and Jake could actually sit and talk.
Totally. I mean, the amount of times I've rewatched that video with clients, I feel like everyone needs to see the video.
You need to watch this now.
Exactly, watch the TED Talk.
But social media allowed me to talk to people I wanted to talk to. And that's basically everything we also do with an agency.
Sure.
Because when someone, a brand or an influencer want to talk to someone, we need to see who and what is their worldview. If you want to talk to someone who has a different worldview than what you're trying to say, you have to adapt your either product or your marketing strategy to be able to talk to them in the right way. Because we always say we want to talk to people who care. Because if they don't care, they don't trust you, and if they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you.
That's very true.
So I was reading some of your blog posts.
Yes.
And,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
were great.
How, like, you're quite like you're very open about your background and what you're facing, and you know the kind of things you encounter. Where do you draw the line between being like a person who represents your company versus being an individual who's going through some, you know, like questions about who you are, you know, like how do you make the distinction between positive, you know, versus look, this is a real struggle that I'm going through?
I took the Eminem approach, and that's basically giving everything.
Okay.
Like if I'm trying to hide behind some of my insecurities and blah blah blah, unless it's very very private, I'm never gonna tell someone to take it. But once you say it out loud, what are they gonna say? You can't get anything returned from that. And if you see that clip from that movie, basically when Eminem says everything that's wrong with him, the other person is muted, like he can't say anything. So basically that's the same approach I've done, just being out loud with everything that I'm going through, good and bad. And then in that way I'll be able to talk to those two groups that I'm trying to talk to, which is other aspiring marketers or entrepreneurs in my age or with my background or whatever, and professionals who actually want some value in terms of like, hey, these are the top 3 Instagram story strategies for your company as a B2C. You know, it's that kind of mix. Maybe I've gone very extreme on sharing everything and I might tone it down. But right now I'm testing, just as anything, test and learn.
I think that's a really inspiring approach as well. I think that, you know, like we know that consumers now want more transparency from brands and products. I don't think that, you know, that has to be an exclusive approach for when you're a consultant. And, you know, I think people that will hire you and that hire your agency will appreciate that, you know, you're transparent. And like you said, you only want to work with people that care because that's your approach too. And I think, you know, I think it's better to really show people who you are so that they get what's on the tin.
Yeah, I'm sure people buy or sign up with you because of you, the people.
I hope so.
Maybe
it's like a little marketing ploy, like lots of performance marketing behind the scenes. I'm not doing that at all.
I think this is a really good question. Where do you both see marketing going in the next 5 years?
It is.
That's a good question.
It's a good question.
This is a big one.
I think I still think it definitely depends on the industry that you're in.
True.
For a start, I think it's such a wide question that it's just really difficult because there's we thought a few years ago that publishing, for example, there would still be no benefit in newspapers and magazines, and the platforms have changed and everything's gone digital, and yet still we find that things like events and PR that goes into paper, is that the latter being a great way to build brand awareness for a product that's sold in grocery, for example. If it's I don't know, within travel or certainly beauty, we found that and social actually started to perform incredibly, and it all became about performance marketing. So I think it depends. For me personally, working within FMCG, it is definitely, it's going to become more and more digital. People are going to have an expectation that not necessarily what they're going to get is more targeted, but smarter, I think. I think, it was one thing that, if you were looking for trainers all of a sudden, then all of your, all of the MPUs and all of the adverts were trainers. But and people don't really like that. But if you're getting content and you're getting adverts that are very specified to you, it is useful. It's handy. And I think that what we'll need to do with our clients is just become a lot smarter in our approach and it be very tailored to people.
I agree, very tailored. I think marketing is going to be, because everybody's right now, you said the thing about the influencers, you had that many people reached. I think marketing is going to go down and talk to fewer people, but people who are actually going to buy.
Yeah.
When you say it's going to target down, it's going to be targeted down to people who are more, care the most in that sense. And I think digital is definitely going to grow. However, I think that experiential marketing is such a gap and it's such a potential, because what do people, nostalgia, experience are the things, especially around if you're working with SMEs that are within luxury niche, that is what consumers are drawn attention to. So, experience, smaller audience, but more refined audience, and then digital for sure. You can say so much about it, but I think Jake summed it up really well.
I am convinced, though, as one quick, the marketing mix has always changed and it will always develop. But what is more apparent than ever is that it's the brands themselves have to have a solid purpose.
Exactly.
That's what we're realizing more than ever. They have to live and breathe their values, and you can use the perfect mix that's tried and tested for a product in your category. But I think in the future it won't deliver. There's going to be no, guarantee unless people on every touch point feel like that product that you're selling or the brand or service is genuinely living and breathing its values.
100%. I was thinking just one thing that Seth Godin always says is about permission marketing, and it's such a small thing that people don't realize. Is after GDPR, obviously we have to take yes, but if you're going to send a newsletter out to people who already accepted, and you ask them, am I allowed to do this? And they said yes, those people are so powerful. And I think that's an aspect of marketing, which he called permission marketing, which is super powerful. And that's something we've been trying to test out, and it's been really helpful, because you can actually communicate with people without thinking that's spam or something like that. I think if regardless of if that's through texting or if it's through emails or whatever, it's going to be the future. I think that's going to be an element.
I agree. 100%.
In the next 5 years at least.
One thing from my side is when we both reached out to you, or when you reached out to and also what you said, you both see yourself as an outsider, or maybe when you said who are you, you started with where you're from, and both you did the same. Dan, do you think that has helped you when it comes to your professional, when you're wearing a professional hat?
To be an outsider.
Yeah.
Yeah, because usually the point, because we help SMEs, small SMEs, in terms of agency, if I have to look at it that way, and usually those clients also see themselves as in kind of an outsider, because they're a smaller business. Even the CEO sometimes have the same history as me, so he can relate. So in that sense, it's something that's been helpful, and it's been a good touch point to address. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, to be honest, I think my degree was in entrepreneurship, and I feel like everybody then there's an expectation you're going to start your own business.
Yeah.
But actually, I do work with just such like inherently entrepreneurial businesses that I almost feel like it's kind of the perfect evolution from like my education up to where I'm working now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I am like by definition the outsider of businesses now because I'm kind of the consultant. But I think that does help me because I think everyone personally is different, and my kind of, you know, I take a very honest approach with people and whether it's brands, and I feel like entrepreneurial brands have often got thicker skin and they kind of want you to be honest and they want to hear how it is so that we can move forward quickly on how to improve it. So I do feel like an outsider, but I don't anymore have any imposter syndrome that I think sometimes you have, like in the earlier days when I was working with Vita Coco. It's an amazing brand, and then I went to Estee Lauder, Pucker, and you know, maybe around Estee Lauder time I thought, ooh, I am a little bit of an imposter. I don't have, you know, the 5, 8, 10 years experience some other people have. And then you realize that that's sometimes a benefit, and actually, you know, marketing moves so quick. One of the things I realize, especially now that, you know, Gen Z have so much buying power, is, God, the amount of companies that could do with actually somebody like a Gen Z in the business, like even on work experience right now. So sometimes it's not, especially as we move forward, it's not about, you know, years experience. It's about how connected you are right now with the tools and the network. So I don't feel so much of an outsider in London, to be honest.
Especially around age. I mean, in my case, I'm 22, and sometimes meeting a CEO or someone responsible for marketing who are like 52, and they have to look at someone 22 to take over their what they are maybe outsiders for. Social media could be an element in their business that they feel outside from. And for me, we are very focused on, you know, businesses have to focus on being on their business, not in their business.
Yeah.
And in that sense, sometimes the social media aspect and stuff like that can provide that from happening.
Yeah. No, but you know, like what you guys said, we have the same approach where we're not, when we go and pitch to businesses, it's not pitching to a company that sells X, Y, Z, it's pitching to the individual who will help us grow as an organization, because we're a small company. But for us, it's more important that person is open-minded, regardless of age or background, because they will be willing to work with us and come, you know, when we pitch new ideas to them, they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should do this. So that's something we have in common. One question, I know we're sort of running out of time here, like you can keep this as short as you like.
Okay.
What's the first thing you ask your client before you start working with them? Maybe Jake, Daniel, you can go first.
Well, the first thing I ask them?
Yeah.
Well, if it's not why they want to do it, it would probably be, who do you want to talk to?
Okay. And you sort of work backwards from that to make the
because then
message.
if I know who they want to talk to, it can be everything from very specific Facebook ads targeted to them, or it can be changing a strategy, what they already have, changing the way they produce their products or something. It's very based on their answer, because it's never a fixed thing. It's always bespoke and based on what's needed and what's the end goal. So we have this thing, I'm going to make it short, ABC model, like A, where you are, C, where you want to get, B is the middle point. Like from here, that would eventually, if that works out, you will be able to C. So there's different strategies for this.
Cool.
Yeah.
For me, it probably goes against everything that we hear, like business leaders and all the positive stuff. But you know, my role is often to fix things or improve things. And you know, whether it's a company's grown so quick that they haven't put the process in place, and it's often fixing something because of a very positive environment where, you know, it's grown too quick, or the team's grown quickly, or we've overlooked something and now it's an immediate concern. So I always ask, what's the problem? What's the problem? I'll ask the founders, and then I'll ask every stakeholder before I give any feedback on what I think. It's not about my opinion. I make sure I've got the whole team's what's the problem. And then I take the Tim Cook approach, I think it is, of saying, you know, the way I see it is. Because it's a diplomatic way to mediate a situation and move forward.
No, for us, the first thing we ask our clients is like, how much money do you have to spend?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Get to the point.
In all fairness, I kind of feel like the way we did in the early stages of the agency, we really wanted to get busy. So we just said yes to everyone.
Yeah.
Like yes to this, anything. But what we found out that either we couldn't deliver the work because we just said yes, or we were not proud of what we delivered. So what we changed now is basically we want to do good work for people we actually believe in. So we're going to say no to much more people.
Exactly, yeah.
But just with those we have, we're going to be able to focus 100%. And I'm sure it's the same with Jake. I mean,
yeah, it's so important because you find yourself always going above and beyond, right?
Yeah.
We all know that for like clients. And, you know, a really good friend of mine who's an amazing consultant in the social space actually once said to me, you know, be generous with your time whenever you have it. Like if you've got clients for 4 days of the week, spend that 5th day going above and beyond for the ones you believe in. But you only want to do that when you've got the right clients, and it is important. And you know, it's better results for you, especially.
It is, and then you know you get clients coming back to you because you've created this bond, this form, and you know what? Rather have your group that you trust, that trust you, that you know you can keep working with, and having all these new people come in that aren't 100% certain. Or,
You know, we did our vision document the other day, and one of the things that kept on coming back was, let's turn work away for people who don't want us to create. You know, let's be proud of everything we do.
where everything that lines up. You know, you have your morals, your principles, everything.
Sure. Exactly.
And,
For us, that was like almost a breaking point of like, we sat down as a team and we thought, okay, you know, one of the things that one of our colleagues said was like, we should do everything that we would be proud to post on our Instagram. And although it's, you know, say what you want about Instagram, but you know, the point he was making was we should be proud to stand back and stand behind everything that we give, deliver to our clients.
with our name on it.
Yeah, with our name on it.
Yeah.
Because life's too short to just, you know, like sometimes you need to take on work because you need the money, but once you get to a certain stage, I mean, you could say, you know, you just wait along for the right opportunity, but for us, it's like we have been very lucky to have good clients, and they sort of almost fell into our radar in a way, and we are happy to work with the clients that we work with, and sometimes we're in a fortunate position to turn a work away and then just go for the right kind of thing.
Can I get to that? Say something on that point?
Sure.
It's just there's this story about this agency. I'm not going to say the name, but they won a lot of awards, and they got to the point where people were like, now they were, you know, requesting, can you do our work and work? And what they did, which I thought was the best branding thing they ever done, they set a limit. We're only going to take, I don't remember the number, let's say 100 clients. And if you're not a good client, we're going to get rid of you. The amount of people that was queuing to get in the list of being with this client, being with this agency, was huge. Because they could sit at a meeting being with someone they didn't, you know, they get along with and be like, well, it's fine. If you're not going to fix this, we have 200 other companies waiting in line to become a part of our hundreds. So that's also like saying no to people is also sometimes a branding decision.
That's really interesting.
Go on, expose the name.
It's years back, and I think,
What we're going to do next, this is just to sort of conclude, how can people find you if they want to work with you? So this is the time to give you
Our last question, how can we contact you?
Amazing. Well,
go ahead, Jake.
746. No, I'm just, the best place is LinkedIn. It's the quickest. It pops straight up on my phone. I actually think, shockingly, my Instagram's set to private. It's just a lot of pictures of me in various baseball caps. It's very boring. In various places around the world. It's not cool.
Same baseball cap?
Lots of different ones. I've got 12 pink ones. So. But LinkedIn, please. Jake Medina. I am in a cap in my picture, so I'm the guy in the cap. Yeah.
For me, I'm on every social media platform, but I would say, in terms of getting, is Instagram, Daniel Najafi. If not, just our company website, jdmsocial.com, and on there, I'm constantly looking, and like we're very dynamic in that sense. So
great. Well, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is the bit where we get to know you guys personally. We're going to ask you both 20 questions. And you should answer as honestly and as quickly as possible based on what you think. Daniel, why don't you go first?
Beach or city break?
Beach.
Beach.
Card or cash?
Card always.
Card.
What about morning, noon, or evening? Sorry.
Definitely the evening.
Morning.
Morning. Okay,
Yeah.
morning person. Favorite movie?
Possibly Forrest Gump.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Very nice.
Classic.
Catch Me If You Can by Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's also a really good one. I watched that quite recently. Favorite place you've ever been to?
Oh, favorite place? Iceland.
Oh,
Reykjavik.
wow.
I was about to say London.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Favorite cheese?
He knows how to please the audience.
Favorite cheese, manchego.
Oh, okay.
Protein cheese.
What is your spirit animal if you have one?
Spirit animal. I don't think I have a spirit animal, but I may be able to think of like a dead person.
Okay. You know what? I love that. Let's go with that. That's a great one.
Yeah, I'll leave it with me.
Okay, sure.
I'm a Scorpio, so I'll just say a Scorpio.
Scorpion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Who would you play? Or who would you have play you in a film?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe a fellow Welshman. Who's a good actor? There's that guy that plays Lucifer on the Amazon series.
Oh, he's quite good.
Him.
Actually, quite look like him.
Upgrade yourself, right?
No, go with it. That's the one.
Oh, that's a tough question.
It is quite tough, yeah.
I'm Persian myself, so someone who's also from Iran, that would be amazing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pepsi or Coke? It's quite a big one here.
Oh, neither.
Neither. Oh, that's a good one.
Neither either.
Neither. Okay.
Yeah.
What would your preferred drink be then?
A can of ugly,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
A big ugly fan.
Does it have to be a brand?
Whatever you
Because
want.
water with lemon.
Water
Lime.
with lemon. That's
Yeah.
a good one. That's a classic.
Someone's fault.
It's my phone. Let's see. Summer or winter?
Probably summer, just for the wardrobe.
London summer?
Don't even talk about it.
It's raining outside just for
Yeah.
the benefit of the audience.
Summer 100%.
Summer.
Yeah,
100%,
yeah.
I agree. Okay. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Kind of lucky,
Oh, that's a good one.
happy, and loud.
I love that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Passionate.
That's a Scorpio trait.
Kind.
Okay.
And thoughtful.
That's a good one. I like that.
Think too much sometimes though.
Overthinking. Same.
Okay, in one sentence, how would you sum up the internet?
Ooh.
Getting serious now.
Let's get serious.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty complex, potentially scary, but very interesting thing.
I love that. That is 100% on the dot.
Can I just have the question again? Describe the internet.
The
How do you
internet.
describe the internet?
The World Wide Web.
It's history repeating itself online.
Oh, yeah, that's a good take.
It's deep.
Yeah. Okay, should we go for the last one, the teeth and fingernails?
Oh yeah, you go for it.
Okay.
This is your,
Oh no, I think I've been here before.
Would you rather have no teeth or no fingernails?
Definitely no fingernails. I have very little in terms of fingernails right now. Teeth are important.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say my mom's a dentist, so I have to go with no.
See, everyone
Yeah.
goes
You
for
see,
the
I
teeth.
say no fingernails.
Really?
Because you can always get dentures, but what do you have to replace fingernails?
Fake nails?
No,
Yeah.
they don't stick onto skin. That's
Okay,
my
well,
argument.
That's a new market.
And that's a wrap. Be sure to check out some of our other episodes.
Thanks for listening.